G'day everyone, welcome to the Sales Couch.
Hey guys.
Matt Steinmeier, I don't know if you recognise him, Johnny Lee. Today we're going to work on something a little bit different. Over my travels and doing a lot of training now with sales teams and groups and executives, I suppose, and on sales and the meetings. And I'm realising that there's a lot of practice that goes in and a lot of intention that goes into preparing a presentation. So we talk about, like I know you talk about a lot, is how your listing presentation should be.
Yeah.
But not a lot of thought goes into how the actual interaction should go with that client and what the balance should be like of the client speaking, me speaking, and so on.
Yeah.
Which is quite ironic that I've been speaking the whole time and haven't allowed you to say anything. So
Very unbalanced.
Very unbalanced. But I thought,
So are you talking on an energetic level? Are you talking about just, you know, how much someone talks versus listening? What is that?
I think that when you practice on a presentation over and over again, that people get quite excited and want to get this presentation out.
Yeah.
So they do exactly that.
Yeah.
And they're not allowing the client to have their say, and they're not allowing the client to not just have their say, but really hear what the client's saying and actually work on it and be dynamic and fluid enough to be able to work on that. And if you are not letting the client have their share or the balance of that conversation out there, then your results are going to be less than optimal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Do you want to? You got some info to show us?
A little bit of a slide here, which is quite
I
exciting.
might just zoom in on that with you.
Yeah, no worries at all.
So,
Do you know, it's quite funny, we have about 11 or 12 large computer screens.
Yeah.
And I've decided to put this on a piece of paper.
okay.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
I can't hear anyone say yes.
Yes, Johnny.
As you can see here, guys, I've just put a quick diagram together, which I'll say thank you to Paul Kelly, who's put this together for me, and I've seen him do this on a number of occasions. And this sort of got me really thinking that if you can see here, this is you, here is the client, and the first part of it is telling. Now, if you can rate yourself in this scenario, how good do you think you are? And I normally use an example of salespeople in general at actually telling you how good we are, telling you how great our product is, how great our service is, and why you should work with ABC estate agents, or you should work with me to sell your home. The next step is number 2, which is actually asking. So how good are you at actually asking questions of your client? And you can see that the difference between telling and asking, it's all about that two-way balance. How much is being spent asking the client and how much is being spent telling them information. If it's a 100% telling conversation, well, it's not a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, and the client's going to feel very left out and disconnected, and we know we can't sell to someone who's disconnected from them. Number 3 is all about listening. Okay, how good are you and how good are salespeople in general at actually listening to what the client has to say and actually actively listening and not lifting it up. My arms are going to get tired though.
Yeah, there you go.
And not just thinking of the next line to say. Salespeople get into a habit very, very easily, like we do when we're out with friends and we're having a really good time. Someone's telling us a story, and we're thinking in our mind, oh, that reminds me of this story I'd really like to tell. And you're thinking all about how the story fits into your head. And as soon as they finish, you go, oh, that reminds me, this one time this happened to me.
Yes.
And while I'm talking to you, you're thinking of the next story to say in your head, and then you say the same to me. There is about 0% of listening going on.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we need to make sure that it's okay to think of the next thing to say, but you've got to make sure that you're doing that at the same time of listening to what the client's saying and validating the client that they know that you're listening. Step 4 down here is acting on what you've heard. Now, what percentage of you or people out there actually are very good at doing, number 1, the telling, 2, the asking, 3, the listening, and 4, acting on what you've heard? When I ask salespeople as a group, and recently we were training a group of about 90 in a room, and we asked them, what percentage of salespeople as a whole do you think are good at number 4, acting on what they've heard?
When you say acting on what they've heard, so you're like repeating it back to the client or engaging in that part of the conversation?
If someone has said to you, I've had a negative experience in real estate because he didn't give me enough communication, making sure that you've taken that, and as you're presenting later on, using that communication as a hot button throughout that presentation, which makes them feel listened to, makes them feel heard, but it makes them feel you're speaking to them.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Which is the whole point of this. You're not selling to a group of 100 people. You're selling to them.
Yes.
Okay. And that's the easy part. You've got one person or 2 people or 3 people in front of you, making sure that they feel heard and they feel validated. So the feedback I get is that probably 2 to 5% of salespeople have the ability to put all 4 of those points together. So if you want...
Do you think that's why that small percentage do so well?
Exactly right. So my tip to salespeople in general now is that if you want to be in the top 2 or 5%, learn the things that only 2 and 5% of the people actually do. And if you can actually not just practice your presentation, but really concentrate on getting that balance together, making sure that you're telling enough, because you've still got to tell people who you are. You've still got to leave them with messages that they've got to sort of walk away with, but making sure that's all you're leaving them with, not just this guy rambles. Number 2, making sure you're asking enough questions. And number 3, you're listening to what those answers are. And number 4, you're using their answers to actually make them feel as though you know what they're doing or you've heard them.
Right.
They would be my major tip at the moment a major part of the work that I'm doing with salespeople is getting their presentations right, getting their phone scripting right, making sure they've got the skills to be able to act this out. But then the next step that we're working on, the more advanced step, is when you're actually in that meeting, you're in that presentation, making sure everyone, that balance is correct.
Do you think that's why, when you've got a really nurturing mum, or something like that, like Shelley does, like my wife does, and her mum, if Shelley has anywhere to go or anything to do that's a bit uncomfortable, she wants a mum to go with her still. Like, she's 31 years old.
Okay.
But because her mum really makes her feel safe, warm, cares so much, like she'll be so zeroed in on what's important to Shelley.
Yep.
That's stuck with Shelley her whole life. Do you think that's sort of like the essence of a presentation in terms of feeling? Like, this is all about feeling, because people make decisions on how they feel.
That's right.
Not so much what you've heard. I think they only absorb something like 10 or 20% of what you're saying.
13 or 15 or something.
Yeah, something like that. But the rest is like body language, energy, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think that's this sort of makes the person feel really warm?
I think that they feel warm. I think they feel validated. I think they feel engaged. I think they listen to what you're saying at a great deal of level. I think I was off the statistics of what you were saying, but it's 7% of the words in what you're saying, it delivers the message.
Yeah.
But what here that we're using is that they buy in a lot more to what it is that you're saying. And if you're going to leave someone and they're going to remember a few things about you, if they're thinking of a feeling, like of warmth, and a feeling of connectiveness. Now, some salespeople may look at this and say, well, my job isn't there to make people feel warm, it's to go in and sell their property at the best possible price. Good on you. You may do well in that as success, but you're probably not going to be remembered in the same way. I'm not suggesting that it's about hugs and puppies and ice cream and those sorts of things. It's very far from it. It's just that I've dealt with real estate agents on a number of ways, and salespeople across all industries, and I'm lucky enough to now work with them as a whole, and I can normally pick the long-term successful ones without hearing their results based on how much they ask questions, actually listen to what I'm saying and use that throughout the presentation or the training workshop in which we do. And you really find a lot out about people when you're with them for 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours. And you could, if you asked me to go in blind, I could normally tell, despite I don't know their work ethic and I don't know, that aspect, their desire factor. But it's all about not just telling. And most salespeople who'll have a problem with this that we're talking about are people who are great tellers.
Definitely.
They'll walk in and they'll say, this is how it's done.
You will win some business on that.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
I'll tell you a quick story, if it's all right.
Yeah.
There was a lady whose house was at Matcham, and which is like a rural sort of sector of our
Very
place.
nice rural.
Yeah. And I went over one day, and her house had flooded.
Okay.
And she got home just after me, and I stayed there, organised the plumber, mopped the whole house up with her. Like, I stayed there for hours, like on my hands and knees mopping this whole house. It was a big house.
Yeah.
And she said, well, I'm definitely selling my house with you.
Yep.
And like, I didn't present, I didn't do anything.
Yep.
But, I engaged with her on a totally different level that was a bit unexpected. And the reason I thought of that is, sometimes that's just what people want to do. They want to engage with a human that cares.
And I think even you're dealing with, real people.
Yeah.
Not they don't own their house as a business, very rarely anyway.
Yeah.
So they really do have a connection with that home, even if it's an investment property that they've had tenants and they've got thought processes that are going through it. Yeah. But even when I work with people and I go to business owners or executives that make the decisions on the training that's going to go forward with it, I have a meeting and say, I'd like to sit down before I put a proposal forward or before I decide what we're going to work on. I'd like to just find out a bit about where you're at in your business. Mm-hmm. And I find out always about their background. I find out what got them to the position they're in, what experience, what training they've done.
Why is that?
The good training, the bad training.
Why do you do that for you?
Because number one is that people have to be ready to learn. They have to be in a position where they really want to. But I can change the content and the style, how we're going to be doing this working, based on what they want. If they've had bad role-playing experiences and are they embarrassed to be role-playing in front of their team? Yeah. Some people are, take me to town and make me look silly in front of the group. And that's normally the first thing people think is make me look silly, whereas role-playing, it's far from that. Yeah. And then some people are really scared to role-play in front of their group, and they say definitely not. So if I think that's the best thing for them to get the best outcome, I know that my first sale has to be getting them to see the benefits of role-playing. So why don't we spend an hour together first and get you up to speed so you know what we're going to be running through for the next 4 hours, so your team gets the benefit of the role-playing.
So you can create a mental plan and strategy around how best to accommodate these people's needs to get the best out of them.
Exactly.
Where if you just went in and said, mate, I'm the best at what I do, blah, 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 I want you role-playing for an hour with me in front of everybody, that's the first thing, they're just going to shut off, aren't they?
It is, because I am, when I do my training, I'm quite hard and I'm very direct. So if I think that something you're doing is silly, I'll make sure you know
when you're doing your training, you like that anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get a persona that I'm not that way. But I also miss out on business because some people will walk in and say, use me because I'm the best and I know how to write this plan and walk out the door.
Yeah.
And I know that I get the best outcomes from my training because I'm prepared from what I've asked at the beginning. I know all this information there when I am training with these people a few hours later or a few days later or a few weeks later. I know what buttons I can push and which ones I can't. I've got a background of the entire team. And it's important for me because I might be training on real estate one day, but the next day it's investment banking and talking about fixed interest. And the next day it could be the financial planning sector, it could be the biotechnology sector. So I've got to make sure that I'm really clear on what the outcome it is. Now, although 70–80% of it is general across all sales, there's going to be some specific aspects to it as well, and I think those are important things to know.
Definitely.
55 seconds.
So we're going to wrap it up, but this really is helping you prepare, isn't it? So this cycle here, you just said preparation before, which made me think about it, but this cycle here, you're doing it properly. You're going to be the best prepared person physically that I reckon that they'll meet.
And you can practice this as well. And because only 2 to 5% people, you want to add value to your presentation. Get the balance right. Your presentation as it is today will be worth a lot more.
Excellent. Great content.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Johnny.
Hey guys, we'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.